All right, are you ready to dive back in? Today, we're tackling something that's, well, it's as important as the workout itself, but often gets overlooked: recovery.
Absolutely.
And let me tell you, the stuff we dug up for this deep dive, game changer, seriously.
Oh, for sure.
We're talking about practical tips, tools, the whole 9 yards. Whether you're a seasoned athlete or just starting out, this one's for you. And get this, did you know that just focusing on the workout and kind of ignoring recovery can actually hold you back?
Yeah. It's like uh, trying to build something, a house, maybe, without a solid foundation, right?
Exactly, it all falls apart.
It's about more than just resting. It's about actively helping your body repair and rebuild.
So let's break this down. The source material really dives into this idea of the importance of recovery, and it boils it down to three main things: muscle repair, getting that energy back, and preventing those injuries. But is it really, like, as you said, building a house on a shaky foundation?
It really is. Think about it. When you work out, you're basically causing these tiny little tears in your muscles.
Microscopic.
Yeah, microscopic tears. And recovery.
Yep.
That's what gives your body the time it needs to repair those tears. That's what makes the muscles stronger, more resilient. But if you don't give your body that recovery time, those tears can build up, and that's when you run into problems.
So it's not just about feeling sore or not, it's actually about giving your muscles what they need to actually grow stronger.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's muscle repair. But what about energy? I know I feel drained after a good workout.
Oh yeah, you're burning through energy stores, primarily glycogen, during exercise and recovery. That's what allows your body to refill the tank, basically.
So you're ready to go again for the next workout.
Right.
Now, injury prevention, that's something I think we can all relate to, especially if you've ever pushed a little too hard.
Definitely. When you're tired, fatigued, your form can slip, and you're just more likely to make a mistake that could lead to an injury,
Yeah.
a strain, a sprain, you name it. Recovery is like giving your body a chance to fix those little issues before they become big problems.
It's all about being proactive, right?
Exactly.
Now, something else that really caught my eye in this material is the mental side of recovery. I don't know about you, but I don't always think about that.
Yeah, we tend to focus on the physical, but our minds need a break too. Mental fatigue is a real thing, and it can sneak up on you. It affects your motivation, your focus, your performance. Recovery gives your mind that chance to step back, recharge.
It's like hitting the reset button for your whole system, both physically and mentally.
I like that. Hitting the reset button.
So we've talked about why recovery is so important, but the big question is, how do we actually do it effectively? Thankfully, the source material doesn't disappoint. It lays out a whole bunch of different techniques like active recovery, static stretching, foam rolling, cold therapy, heat therapy, so much good stuff.
There really is a lot to cover.
So much. Okay, let's start with active recovery. I have to admit that always sounds a little counterintuitive to me. Why wouldn't complete rest be better?
I get it. It seems like it should be the opposite, but gentle movement after a workout, it can actually speed up your recovery. It's like, imagine your muscles are like sponges, right?
Yeah.
And active recovery, something like a light walk or easy cycling, it's like gently squeezing out all that metabolic waste, getting fresh blood flowing. And that helps repair and reduce stiffness.
So active recovery is like a gentle flush for your muscles.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, static stretching, that's something I think most people are familiar with. But is there anything new or surprising about it that came up in the research?
Well, the basics are the same, but the research really stressed the importance of holding those stretches for at least 20 to 30 seconds, Really let those muscles relax and lengthen. That's what improves flexibility, range of motion, and that helps with both performance and preventing injuries.
I know I've been guilty of rushing through my stretches before.
I think we all have.
Okay, on to foam rolling. The source material calls it self-myofascial release, which sounds a little intimidating. What exactly are we doing here?
Honestly, it's basically a self-massage. Think of it as working out those knots in your muscles. By applying pressure to certain areas, you release tension, improve blood flow, and that helps with muscle recovery. They even suggest specific techniques for those problem areas, like tight hip flexors or a stiff upper back.
Oh, I can feel that already, especially after sitting at a desk all day.
It makes a big difference.
Okay, let's move on to some temperature-based techniques. First up, cold therapy. Cold therapy seems to be everywhere these days, especially with athletes. What's the science behind it? What makes it so beneficial?
Well, cold therapy, think ice baths or cold showers. It works by constricting blood vessels. That helps to reduce inflammation and numb pain, which is especially helpful after a tough workout or if you have an acute injury.
So it's not just for bragging rights. There's a real reason athletes swear by it.
Absolutely, real science backing it up.
Now, heat therapy. I love a good heating pad on sore muscles. Is there more to it than just feeling good?
Oh yeah, there's more to it. Heat therapy, whether it's a heating pad, a warm bath, or even a sauna, it works by dilating those blood vessels, increases blood flow to the area, and that, in turn, relaxes muscles, eases stiffness, and helps with healing. It's especially good for chronic muscle tension or for recovery on your rest days.
It sounds like both cold and heat therapy have their place in a good recovery routine.
They each have their benefits.
All right, we've covered techniques, but let's talk tools. I love a good recovery gadget, and our source material dives into some really interesting ones. They mention foam rollers, which we already talked about, but there are also massage guns, compression gear, resistance bands, massage balls, and even recovery boots. So much cool stuff.
It's like having a whole toolbox for your recovery.
It really is. Let's start with massage guns. I have to admit, those always look a little intimidating to me. How do they work, and are they really as intense as they seem?
They might look a little scary at first, but they're really not that bad. Massage guns use percussive therapy, basically targeted pulses, to hit specific muscle groups. It helps release tension, boost blood flow, and reduce soreness.
So it's like a mini jackhammer for your muscles, but hopefully a lot gentler.
Much gentler. The source material recommends using light pressure and only applying it for like 15 to 30 seconds per muscle group. It's great for getting at those stubborn knots that a foam roller might miss.
That's good to know. It sounds a lot more approachable than I thought.
Oh yeah, they're not as scary as they look.
All right, next up, compression gear. I've seen athletes wearing those tight socks and sleeves. Do those actually do anything, or is it more about style?
It's not just for show. There's actually some good science behind compression gear. It works by applying gentle pressure to the muscles, and that helps improve circulation and reduce swelling, especially after exercise. They can even be helpful on long flights or anytime you're sitting for a long time to help prevent blood from pooling in your legs.
Oh, that's good to know, especially for someone who travels a lot.
Yeah, they can make a big difference.
Now, what about resistance bands? I always think of those for strength training, not so much for recovery. How do they fit into the picture?
So while resistance bands are definitely used for strength training, they can also be really helpful for stretching and mobility work. You can use them to deepen a stretch, activate specific muscles, and improve your range of motion. It's like gently encouraging your muscles to move through their full range, which helps with flexibility and prevents stiffness.
It's like giving your muscles a little extra support while they're stretching.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now for the tools I'm less familiar with. Massage balls and recovery boots. Massage balls seem pretty self-explanatory, but recovery boots, what are those all about?
So massage balls are basically miniature foam rollers, perfect for targeting those smaller areas like your feet, your glutes, your shoulders. You just roll them under the area, apply pressure, and it helps release tension and improve mobility. And recovery boots, well, those are a little more high-tech. They look kind of like inflatable pants, and they use dynamic compression to basically squeeze your legs in a rhythmic pattern. That helps flush out waste products, improve circulation, and reduce muscle soreness.
So it's like a high-tech leg massage.
You can say that.
That sounds amazing, actually.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here with techniques and tools, but let's move on to something we all have access to, and that's sleep. Sleep is like the ultimate recovery tool, wouldn't you say?
It really is. It's when your body goes into repair mode, rebuilding tissues, replenishing energy, releasing hormones. So important for recovery, both physically and mentally.
The source material really emphasized the importance of sleep, and I have to admit, I'm sometimes guilty of sacrificing sleep to fit in a workout or other things. What are the real consequences of not getting enough sleep? I mean, besides feeling tired.
Well, besides feeling tired, lack of sleep can actually increase your risk of injury. Your reaction time slows down, your coordination suffers, your decision-making isn't as sharp, you're just more prone to accidents. And it's not just injuries. Not getting enough sleep can hinder muscle growth and repair, increase inflammation, even suppress your immune system.
Wow, I never realized how much of an impact sleep has on recovery. So, any tips for actually getting a good night's sleep?
The most important thing is consistency. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, even on weekends, to regulate your sleep-wake cycle. Also, create a relaxing bedtime routine. Dim the lights, avoid screens for at least an hour before bed, and make sure your bedroom is cool, dark, and quiet.
It's like setting yourself up for sleep success. All right, speaking of setting yourself up for success, let's talk about nutrition. What we eat plays a huge role in how well we recover after a workout, right?
Absolutely. Nutrition is all about providing your body with the building blocks it needs to repair and rebuild.
And it's not just about food, but also what we drink. Hydration is key. The source material really emphasized that point. So how does dehydration affect recovery?
When we exercise, we lose fluids through sweat. If we don't replace those fluids, we get dehydrated, and that leads to fatigue, muscle cramps, even dizziness. Dehydration also slows down the delivery of nutrients to your muscles, so the repair process doesn't work as well.
It's like trying to build something without enough water to mix the cement, right? It's just not going to work.
A perfect analogy. The research really stressed drinking plenty of water throughout the day, especially before, during, and after workouts. Electrolyte drinks can also be helpful, especially after intense exercise, to replace those electrolytes you lose through sweat.
Okay, so we're staying hydrated. What about food? I know protein is important for muscle repair, but what else should we be focusing on?
Protein is definitely key for providing those amino acids your muscles need to rebuild. But carbohydrates are also important for replenishing your energy stores, and healthy fats help reduce inflammation. A good rule of thumb is to aim for a meal or snack that includes all three: protein, carbs, and healthy fats.
Do you have any go-to examples? I'm always looking for ideas.
A protein smoothie with banana and berries is always a good choice, or grilled chicken with quinoa and roasted vegetables. Greek yogurt with granola and fruit is another good option.
Those all sound delicious and easy enough to make. I'm gonna have to try those.
They're all great options.
Oh, and what about anti-inflammatory foods? I've heard things like salmon, berries, leafy greens, and turmeric can help with soreness and inflammation.
They definitely can. They're packed with antioxidants and other compounds that help fight inflammation and promote healing.
So we've covered techniques, tools, sleep, and nutrition. That's a lot of information. How do we put it all together into a personalized recovery routine? It seems a little overwhelming.
It can be. That's why the source material breaks it down into different time frames. Immediately after a workout, later in the day, rest days, and then the importance of having a weekly recovery plan.
Okay, that makes it seem a little more manageable. So let's break it down, time frame by time frame.
Sounds good. Right after a workout, the focus should be on rehydrating and doing some light stretching or foam rolling, maybe for 5 to 10 minutes. So like a cool down for your muscles, helping to prevent stiffness later on.
I can definitely see myself ending a workout with a good stretch and a big glass of water.
Perfect. Now, later in the day, you can incorporate things like a massage gun or heat therapy to further relax those muscles. And of course, focus on nutrient-rich meals and snacks. On your rest days, active recovery is key. Think yoga, walking, swimming, light cycling. Anything that gets you moving gently without putting too much stress on your body.
So rest days don't have to mean just sitting on the couch all day.
Not at all. It's about finding ways to move your body gently. The research also recommends incorporating mobility drills or foam rolling on rest days to address any lingering stiffness or tightness.
So staying active, but in a gentle way.
Exactly.
Now, what about this weekly recovery plan they talk about? What does that look like?
The source material basically suggests planning your week and making sure you include at least one full day of rest or very light activity. This gives your body that chance to fully recharge after a week of workouts. They even suggest adding in other relaxing activities like a massage, a sauna session, or even meditation to help you de-stress mentally.
That sounds like a recipe for a really good week, both physically and mentally. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's talk about some common recovery pitfalls. You know, those things we might be doing that are actually holding us back. We've all been there, right?
Oh, absolutely. We all make mistakes along the way. It's part of the process.
Okay, so mistake number one, according to the research, is skipping recovery work altogether. I know I've definitely been guilty of that, especially when I'm short on time or feeling really motivated. What's the fix?
The fix is simple, but it does require a bit of a mindset shift. We need to start thinking of recovery as an essential part of our fitness routine, not something we just squeeze in if we have time. It's just as important as the workout itself. So schedule it in, make it non-negotiable.
It's an investment in our health and fitness long term.
Exactly.
All right, what about mistake number two?
Mistake number 2 is overtraining. This is where we get so caught up in pushing ourselves that we ignore our body's signals. We think we need to constantly be pushing to see results, but in reality, that can backfire.
I've definitely fallen into that trap before. It's hard to shake that no pain, no gain mentality sometimes. How do we avoid overtraining?
The key is listening to your body. If you're feeling super fatigued, sore, or if you have any unusual aches or pains, it's time to take a break. Schedule those rest days, even if you feel like you could push through. Remember, rest is when you actually get stronger.
Rest is where the magic happens. All right, and finally, mistake number 3.
Mistake number 3 is neglecting nutrition and hydration. We touched on this earlier, but it's so important. If you're not fueling your body properly, you're not giving it what it needs to recover.
It's like expecting a car to run on empty. So how do we make sure we're giving our bodies the fuel they need to recover?
Planning is key. Plan your meals and snacks in advance, just like you planned your workouts. Make sure you're eating a balanced diet with plenty of protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats. And of course, always have water on hand to stay hydrated throughout the day. Make it easy to make healthy choices.
It's all about setting ourselves up for success. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into some more specific strategies for creating a recovery routine that works for you.
Sounds good to me. It really comes down to making recovery, making it a conscious part of your fitness routine, not just something you do when you're already feeling beat up.
Right. It's not just about fixing problems. It's about setting yourself up for success from the get-go.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that brings us right back to the core message, the big takeaway from all this research.
Just
Recovery. It's active. It's not just like sitting around waiting to feel better. It's taking those steps to actually help your body, repair, rebuild, recharge.
So we really need to change our thinking. It's not a luxury. It's essential. Recovery is a must-do.
Precisely. And what I find really interesting is how personalized it can be. There's not just one right way to do it. It's about finding what works best for you, your body.
That makes sense. We all have different routines, fitness levels, goals. What works for, say, a marathon runner might not work for someone who's just starting out.
Exactly. It's about paying attention to how your body responds to the different things you try and then adjusting from there. You're kind of becoming a scientist of your own body.
Ooh, I like that. A scientist of your own body. So instead of just blindly following some generic plan, we need to experiment, see what actually makes us feel our best.
Exactly. And the cool thing is this research gives us so many different options to choose from.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into recovery, what's the one thing, the most important thing you want listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Recovery is an investment. It's an investment in your long-term health and fitness. And it's something we should never, ever feel guilty about.
And it's an investment that really pays off in so many ways.
Oh, absolutely. You perform better, you avoid injuries, you stay motivated. It's about finding that sustainable approach to fitness, one that lets you enjoy it and achieve your goals without burning out.
So well said. It's like they say, slow and steady wins the race. And in this case, that race is a lifelong pursuit of health and wellness.
That's it, exactly. And when we make recovery a priority, we're making sure we can stay in that race for the long haul.
I love that. So to wrap things up, think about your next workout. Think about just one recovery technique or tool we talked about that you can try afterward. Maybe it's foam rolling. Maybe it's just taking a few minutes to stretch. Maybe it's making sure you get a good night's sleep. Or maybe it's whipping up a delicious recovery smoothie. Whatever it is, pay attention to how you feel the next day. You might be surprised by the difference.
And remember, the best recovery strategy is the one that you'll actually stick with. Find what works for you, make it a habit.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into recovery. We hope you found it useful and, most importantly, that you can actually use this information. Until next time, happy recovering.
It's interesting, isn't it? We often think of recovery as something we have to earn, like a reward after a really hard workout. But it's really not like that at all, is it?
No, not at all. It's more like it needs to be a constant thing, part of our everyday lives, not just something we tack on at the end.
Yeah, weaving it into everything we do. And it's not just about, not being sore the next day. It's bigger than that. It helps us perform at our best, avoid those injuries, and it keeps us motivated.
It really does. It's about finding a way to do fitness, to enjoy being active, but in a way that we can actually sustain, long term and not burn out.
Absolutely. Finding that balance. Well, I think that's a great point to leave our listeners with. Recovery is not an afterthought. It's essential.
It really is. So we need to prioritize it, treat it with respect. Our bodies will thank us for it. Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into recovery. We hope you found it helpful and, most importantly, that you learned something you can actually use. Until next time, happy recovery.